Welcome to Half Century Hangout, where different paths lead to the same table. I'm your host, John, joined by my friends and co-hosts, Luke and Chuck. We're three guys who grew up differently but became good friends with a lot to talk about. On this show, we bring our unique perspectives to the table and dive into everything from current events to life's big questions. We might not always see eye to eye, but that's exactly why we're here. To listen, to learn, and change our minds sometimes. So grab a seat and join us for honest conversation, unexpected insights, and a few friendly arguments. This is Half Century Hangout, where different perspectives make for better discussions. Welcome back to Half Century Hangout. Luke, we were on spring break. What'd you do over spring break?
Oh, little toes in the sand, you know?
Yeah.
Drink in my hand. It was all good. It was
Very
fun.
nice.
Had a good time, really great time with my wife. Took off, and first time I had to go back in the old history book to go through it. It was since high school that I actually took a whole week off to go to spring break.
Wow.
Seriously.
Haven't done it since high school, which is going to segue later, but I don't want to ruin it for everybody.
Right. That's awesome.
You know, it was great. Had a great time.
Chuck, you put a closet in?
Yep, we tore out a closet and put a new closet system in with a built-in and some nice drawers, and it turned out really good. We painted the room and pulled up the carpet. We're going to refinish the floors later this summer because they're a mess, but just this past weekend, we put the blinds and curtains in, and
Nice. And what is that your bedroom? Or
yeah, that's our bedroom.
Nice.
Yep.
Good for you.
And
That's awesome.
It's really nice. My wife did a really good job.
A little more
decorating it.
usable space.
Way more usable.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Good,
awesome.
Yeah.
I did get my appointments done, and I had a window guy come over because we're looking at getting new windows.
Oh, that's fun.
I went and,
No fun.
did a lot
Speaking
of
of that, are we
work.
monetizing the podcast?
Yeah.
We might
I could
need
use
to.
that.
It's called the John Window Fund.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we aren't doing them all.
I was going to say that's
Over time. We'll
yeah. I was going to say you might
I
have to. You
can't
might have to
afford 'em
phase
all.
that. I was going to say that's a phase.
at one time.
That's a
Our
phase job.
kitchen would be just
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
we aren't doing them all, but some things need to be replaced.
Yeah.
So
The
that was a good
windows
one.
and the things got me thinking about stuff here. You know, we're back in the garage. We're here, and I've got projects in here. But spring's coming. It's supposed to be 70 degrees the rest of the week, you know, and I got projects around the house to do in the spring and getting stuff ready and getting flowers and doing
got
stuff.
your yard
and
work all
got-
done, ready to go for
No.
spring.
I have to dog proof now. I have a different dog now. And my other dog passed away last year. He was a different kind of dog. So now this one's a little bit of a digger. So I got to change some stuff around.
Yeah.
I already got one mole. Got him yesterday. So
Man,
we're good. Yeah.
Moles have killed my yard.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
They
brutal.
are absolutely.
They're brutal.
Brutal's right.
They
word.
are brutal.
I hate
Yeah.
moles. We're going to do a podcast on vacations, what we like to do when we get away.
Oof.
And you heard that Luke got away for a whole week. It's hard to do sometimes is to get away, you know? It's hard to take that time for yourself.
I think that the biggest thing when we were talking about this, and I actually had a conversation with my daughter about it when I was down there in Florida. It's the disconnecting part.
Yep.
That's the hardest part for me, just because I don't generally do that, right? I mean, I work, you know, all the people that say, oh, you know, teachers, they get the summer. Well, I don't get the summer off. Okay?
Right.
But it's most of us, no matter what, and I know we're going to go into that a little bit, but that disconnect thing, I've really never gotten to do it or even had the experience of it really to do that. You know, like when I go hunting for a day, you know, I get a day of it, right? It's nice. But I never really fully quite disconnect.
Right.
So it took a couple days to actually do that. But
sure.
once I did, I felt great. It was awesome. you
Well,
know?
and it's even harder to disconnect today than it used to be 10, 15 years ago because we're so connected in different ways with the world.
Yeah.
It's just hard to disconnect.
This is the first time.
Disconnect.
You'll laugh at this. You're kind of a tech guy. This is the first time, and I didn't know how. I didn't know how to do it. I'm self-reporting. I said cache once, right? I have never set my email to I'm out of the office and I'll return. I've never done that.
Vacation
It was
mode?
the first time I did it. First time I ever did it. And I did it right. It actually turned back on the day I came back.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
But it was cool because I noticed all of a sudden my inbox wasn't nearly as full as it usually had been. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's kind of wild.
That is awesome.
People stop sending stuff
Yeah.
and they notice you're
Email.
out.
Oh my gosh.
So it's interesting. You mentioned the disconnect. It's hard to kind of like get away because you spend so much time thinking about what it is that you do, and usually there's not a big chunk of a time. So I was just talking to somebody about this morning. I found that you actually have to. There's 2 or 3, maybe 4 days, depending upon what you do, that you are able to kind of put all that stuff in the background, and you're able to kind of put all that stuff away and stop thinking about it because it's just, you're not there, you're not facing those same circumstances. And so you're able to kind of put it away, which allows you to probably take 3 or 4 or 5 days to, actually just rest and kind of involve yourself in what you're doing, whether you're at the beach or the mountains or whatever it might be. But then last 2-3 days of that, I find myself thinking about, okay, here's what I'm going to be facing when I come back into the office.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for like a vacation, really to be a vacation, it's almost like it's got to be 3 weeks long.
Yeah.
Because
and sometimes your vacations are, like you said, if they aren't long enough, they aren't very relaxing because you're running and trying to get all this stuff in and create those memories that vacations do. But
it's kind of funny because in the middle, well, I guess it wasn't in the middle. It was towards the end in the last couple of days of the vacation. There was something that happened with work, but it was via text message and there was some stuff that was going on.
Right.
And it kind of
drew you back in.
Yeah, but I really didn't want to. I wasn't ready. So I called somebody. I've never done this before. Well, I guess I probably have, but not in the same vein. I called this person to talk me off the ledge. Like, hey, I need 10 minutes of your time for me to vent, get this out of my system so I can go back to finish my vacation.
Yeah.
And it sort of worked. Like it kind of did, but it only took me, maybe a few hours. If you ask my wife, it'd probably be a little different, but it was a few hours till it got out of my system.
Right.
And then I was like, you know what? I can deal with it when I get back and it'll be okay.
Right.
But I did start to in the last couple of days, especially when you're sitting in the airport and I'm delayed and I'm messaging you guys. I'm like, hey, I'm stuck in the airport,
Right.
You're sitting there and you're kind of looking around and that's probably the problem for me as a little bit of a control freak is like, I have no control over what's going on.
Yeah.
So that for me is a little bit hard to let that go.
Yeah.
And realize they got snow somewhere and they had to de-ice the plane. I'm in Florida. I'm like, they're de-icing the plane.
Right.
I'm sweating sitting in the airport, and I'm like, but that's the way it is. And so you just kind of chilled. And
some things are out of your control.
Yeah.
Do you guys like to plan out your vacation like day by day, minute by minute, or is it just like, okay, we're going to go to this spot and then we're just going to kind of feel it out to just kind of see what we want to do? How do you guys like to vacation?
I think it depends. It depends on where I'm going and what I'm looking to do. Yes, I think it's important to plan, but I also think it's important to have some time that you allow for things to just happen.
Built-in flexibility.
Yes, I'm more of I go on vacations because I like the experience and the different experiences, and so I don't necessarily like to plan every waking moment.
No.
Yeah.
So I like to be able to say, yeah, I want to go see downtown Santa Fe. So I'm going to just go into town and walk around and see what's going on and what they have and how cool a place it is. And so kind of getting into the last few days, when I get somewhere and I only have I don't know, 5 days or whatever,
Mhm.
I'm already thinking, what do I have to do after that?
Yeah.
And that I need to be able to say, I'm not in control of that.
Yep.
I'm not planning for that. I just need to have fun and relax and create those experiences.
Here's what I've noticed for me when I go somewhere, I do need probably a longer chunk of time because it takes you longer to decompress and then to actually enjoy the time. But when I'm staying, like this was a vacation, is that what they call it?
Staycation.
Staycation, yeah.
Yes, where we did our renovation in our bedroom. It was easier for me to forget about work stuff because I was working with my hands, putting thought into measurements and cutting stuff and screwdriver, all that kind of thing.
Measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's easier for me to kind of forget work because I'm working with my hands. I think that was.
I think for me, and my wife and I would probably differ a little bit with this, where she's more of a planner. But I think the more that we've gotten comfortable with the idea, there's plenty of times where it's like, we're just going to roll, see where it takes us. And especially beach life, right? I mean, we're there. It's like, hey, guess what? If the waves are kicking today and the sun's out and we're going. Yeah. If it's cloudy and raining and cool, well, we got to do something else, right?
Yeah.
So we went to Key West, which I've never been. That was the furthest south I've ever been. And geographically in my mind, I had no idea how far south it was. I thought that the south point of Texas was further south.
Oh, wow.
Like on a map, I'm thinking in my head.
It's down there a little ways.
We were 90 miles from Cuba.
Yeah, close.
I had no idea. I just really didn't have this whole thing. And so I think that for me, that vacation piece, I think like you were talking about how your hands, like you were able to let go of work to do that. I think for me, and this is probably one of the first times that I've been able to do this, I immersed myself in the culture of what was there and of the people. And there's a Cuban culture, right? There's a Hispanic culture. It's this thing. And it was so cool. Like it was so different.
So is there a
than what I'm used to here?
Is there a port like around the Key West where people people come in from Cuba to Key West? Is that?
Yeah. Well, there's a base there too. There's a naval base there, which I didn't know, but there's a naval base there too. But, I mean, now when I say it's the furthest southern point, it's the furthest southern point of the continental United States. There's more keys after Key West, but you can't get to them by car.
Gotcha.
Either boat
That's
or
the
plane
furthest
or
south
something.
you can drive to.
You can drive to. And so now I have all the way from the north, I-75 in Michigan. I have driven every mile of I-75.
Wow.
So
That's
that
amazing.
this was the last piece that I had to do.
Wow.
Was from Tampa to Fort Myers and then down through, but we went down through Miami and then but my geography was all over the place. It's not like my geography of Southern Florida is very good because I really have learned a lot. How big the Everglades are. Like it's gigantic.
Huge.
Gigantic. And I didn't even go through it. Like I haven't even gone. Now our daughters lived down there for a couple of years, but it's like I haven't even gone in there yet.
Yeah.
And I'm going to at some point. I just never have. But just super interesting. And I did get to release, and I didn't get to, disconnect for a while and do that, which I think was helpful.
Can you actually drive through the Everglades? There
is a road that kind of does, I-75 kind of curves around it and goes down to Miami, but there is another highway that goes through, but everybody that you talk to, it's a little bit of a
little sketchy,
well, it could be, but it's more of the roads that I'm used to. You know what I mean? And that's the other part of it is that when you were talking about the last couple days of vacation, right? The last couple days of vacation was always driving home.
Yeah.
Well, this time I flew, right? So I didn't really have to worry about that. Like that was in the plan. Like, okay, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
Which that for me we never flew anywhere. I mean, growing up, we flew to Florida once, and that was a whole other story. But it was like we went and flew back. But even my dad, I just learned that. That was one of the things. And we always we talked about values. That was one of us for our family, which we all joke about now, is we took the scenic route.
Right.
Absolutely.
Always, which I love doing. But it was kind of nice for this one because I got to not travel most of my trip.
Yeah.
You know, it was a
Right,
few
right.
hours at the front and a few hours at the back.
Well,
Right.
we went to Florida a number of years ago with the family, and we were in this rented minivan, and we got on this back road that I think it was through the Everglades, but there were bodies of water that like were deep and encompassed the entire road, which was probably a car and a half wide.
Yeah. That's what
And
I've heard about this road.
It took us,
Forever.
forever.
Yeah,
Like 2.5 hours
Mhm.
probably to get through this. And I mean, if
That might have been where it was, because if you look at a map, which I did after the fact, there really is only one other road that kind of goes through there. And that's probably what it's like.
And our intent was to find some alligators. We just wanted to see, we'd never seen alligators. We got so tired of seeing alligators that we were just worried about getting off.
They
of this
were all
road.
over, huh?
All over the place, stretched across the road. You know, I mean, you had to get out and kick them not really, but
You can just see Chuck out there kicking an alligator. Get out of the road. We saw an iguana cross the road.
Really?
And it was a big one. He was probably 4 foot long, but it was funny because I kept saying, so that 7-mile bridge that goes to Key West. So you're just surrounded by water. I mean, it's not like a bridge, like it's way up in the air. It's on the water. But we kept seeing signs for key deer, which are endangered species. And I'm like, oh, I want to see a deer
Key
cross the
deer.
road. Key. And they look a lot like a whitetail, but their face is a little different. But then there was a sign for iguana crossing, and I thought it was kind of a joke. And I'm like, man, I haven't seen anything cross the road, and there's all these signs. And then the car in front of us, because there's only 2 lanes, so you can't pass anybody. So I'm stuck behind like an Airstream and something else. You know, I'm driving back, and the car in front of me, I see him kind of swerve, and I look, I'm like, oh, and there's the iguana. And he was probably, I don't know, as long as this, maybe 6 foot long,
Wow.
waddling across the road. I'm like, hey, you don't see that in Iowa.
is that
No.
KEY deer?
KEY, yeah.
Yeah, Key West.
And they're endangered, apparently. So, and roosters everywhere. Roosters.
Interesting.
Yep.
I got a question.
That's the wildlife, huh?
I wonder. So we went to Belize one time on vacation, and the way they spell key, it looks like K, like CAYE, I think. And all of their islands are like K something. And I was pronouncing it K, and they said, no, you pronounce it key. But in Florida, you said Key West. I wonder if that's like a derivative or a variation of that word island. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just got in my mind.
Could be.
So,
Well, hey, you've talked a lot about a pretty memorable vacation, it sounds like, which is pretty cool. Chuck, what's your most memorable vacation you took? You talked about going down to Belize, but
That was super fun. My wife and I, we went by ourselves, and it was an incredible trip. We went down to an island called San Pedro and stayed in a condo and walked pretty much everywhere. There was one day we rented a golf cart, went to this local soccer game. And that got a little sketchy. I mean, those people take their soccer seriously.
they do.
And it was like my wife was holding on to me as we were leaving because, I mean, people were out there fighting. And
it's kind of like pickleball in Council Bluffs. Serious? Are you serious?
I am serious.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a referee down there.
But that was and the referees, man, they just got got pummeled.
I bet.
It was like my wife and I, we got to get out of here. This isn't safe anymore. But that was such a fun trip, and we really enjoyed that.
Was it what you saw or who you were with? Or a little bit of both?
It was mostly who I was with, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But what we saw was absolutely beautiful. We walked the beaches, and man, there was this one beach called Secret Beach that we went to. And we went kind of early in the morning. And did you guys know that there's these things called sea roaches? Have you ever heard of them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we got to this beach before the sea roaches. So they come into the shallow water at night, and then because it's warmer, and then they go out to the deeper end during the day. And we must have gotten there before they got out. And we were just loving this beach out there. And there's these things like crawling on our skin. We're like, what the hell are these things?
Yeah.
And we asked the lady, like, there's something in this water, and they're like, they start sucking your skin. And they're
Really?
like almost like leeches.
Huh.
And so we'd pull them off, and we did not like that. So we got out of the water until those things,
A couple of years back we went to Florida again, but we went across the state to the eastern side to, what's the place called where they launched the
Cape
Canaveral.
Yeah.
So we were on that beach. So it's a little different because over there you see the sunrise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we get up in the morning, we're all kind of sideways and go down to the beach, and it was like ghost crabs. And they dig these little holes and they're spitting the sand out. I mean, they're little, they're like this, but it was hilarious because I'm like, what are these things? Get those things away from me.
Yeah.
But they were all over the place. Now they weren't sucking my skin off my body, so that was a plus.
This was pretty disgusting. But after those things got out and it got later in the day, it was absolutely wonderful. People come out and serve you drinks. Like picnic tables in the water. That was super fun. Saw a stingray, so that was
Awesome. Cool. That is cool.
So that was probably like one of my favorite vacations that I had with Jen. When you talk about travel, I traveled one time. I did some work down in some mission work down in Paraguay, and I went to the Iguazu Falls. You guys ever heard of those?
Never heard of it.
It's in Brazil, and they're the largest falls in the world, like one of the 8 natural wonders of the world.
Okay.
Wow.
And it's in Paraguay. There's a city called Cia del Este, and we crossed the border into Brazil from there and saw these falls that were absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's
It is
probably
pretty cool to see.
One of the prettiest places.
See falls. That is pretty cool.
What about you, John?
Oh, one of my favorite places that I've been is the Holy Land. And again, it was with people that I enjoyed being with, my wife, and we went on a trip with some other friends that we had met, and just seeing the background and the geography and the religious background of the Holy Land. That was just
it was cool.
a really
I remember you talking about
neat
it.
trip.
Yeah.
And it was one that actually, as an educator, you usually don't take trips in January or during the school year. I got like 10 days off during the school year. And
I remember that, John.
I took them. Yes. And I have not lived that down.
No, you have not. No. But it was great hearing from you after it because it is cool.
It is just it's a neat place to go and such history. I never used to like history, but man, I love going places and seeing the history of that place and seeing how it has shaped humans over time.
Yeah.
Just a really, really neat trip and a really fun trip and a lot of places that you can see in the Holy Land. So that was one of my favorite trips.
Are you more of a mountain person or more of a beach person, John?
I've been to both.
Yeah.
I love the nature of things, I guess. I've been to, my mom actually is from Hawaii, so I visited Hawaii a few times and talk about a falls. You remember, and you guys remember, other people may not on the podcast, but do you remember Fantasy Island?
Yes.
Remember the Fantasy Island Falls?
The plane.
Yeah, well, the Fantasy Island Falls.
I was talking about M&Ms.
No. Are on Kauai. That's where my mom grew up. So we spent a lot of time there. And my cousin took us back into some of the sugarcane fields. And we walked on this trail and we're walking a ways. And pretty soon we get to the top of this falls. And you can go out. It like splits and you can go out on the rocks right at the edge. And we're looking out there and there are people looking up at us and we're on the top of Fantasy Island Falls. Pretty cool stuff. It was really neat. But
that is neat.
Yeah, I like the beach. I like the mountains. Been to Colorado, been to Santa Fe, been to Alaska. Alaska is like Colorado on steroids.
Yeah.
Just a beautiful, beautiful place. But
when we went to Florida, Jen and I went to Florida by ourselves. So when we were empty nesters, and we went to the Clearwater Beach area.
Yeah.
And there's a place, I think it's called Dundian or something like that. But just past that, it's called Honeymoon Beach. It's a state park. Like hardly anybody knew about it. We were there, and we were one of maybe 30 people on this entire beach.
Yeah.
And that's probably been one of our favorite places to go.
I think when you say that, what do you prefer, the mountains or the beach? It's kind of like that for me. Like if there's a ton of people at the beach, that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm not that person. I'm not. Yeah. Now you can still enjoy yourself. I mean, my wife and I walk along the water, and she loves it. And it's one of those things where I know how much she loves it. Mm-hmm. So I also in turn love it because I know how happy she is and how it's going. But when there's a ton of people,
Luke, that's awesome.
It's when there's a ton of people, it's like, it takes the luster out of it.
It does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that the beach is cool when you can see it when it's a little more secluded. Mm-hmm. And me growing up in northern Michigan on Lake Michigan near a place called Traverse City, there's a thing called the Sleeping Bear Dunes. Mm-hmm. So that was the beach that I grew up with. Now that water's a little cold. Okay.
Maybe
it's not like warm. Bit. I mean, even in the summer, at the hottest day in the summer, that water might be
pretty chilly.
50.
Oh, it gets close to 60, but still it's not warm. Right.
Yeah.
But that beach, like growing up, but you'd have these people on the dunes, and the dunes are gigantic. They're huge. Like you could go for miles and not see anybody, which I really like that. But the mountains and nature to me is a different level of things, because to me, you're surrounded by creation, right? It's like, this is amazing to me.
Yeah.
And I can, the hunting part, I love to hunt and I love to do that. But to me, especially as I get older, I can sit in a tree stand. I never used to be able to sit for that long. I was always the dog. I was always out still hunting. I'm the one out kicking stuff up. Now I can sit in that tree stand or somewhere because I just breathe. It's like taking it all in. And in my spot, I can see the sunrise coming up through the corner. I can see all this, and it's just, I just melt. Like it just takes everything. It's done. I like it.
You talked a little bit about that shared experience. And I think that's every vacation I've been on, every place I've been, I love to share that with people. We went out to San Diego and it was nice to share that time with people and get to know people really, really well.
Yeah.
I think you get to know people in a different way when you go on vacation with them, or we were happened to be at a conference, but when you go to a conference and you travel, you get to know people a little bit in a little different way.
Yeah, it's a different setting, and you get to know people in a different way.
And John and I found a common place to hang out.
We did. You might have a few of those glasses.
Yeah, they're hanging around here somewhere. Yeah. Like you said, I think that's an example of where you go somewhere and you disconnect. So you see a different side of people, you see some things. And I think for me, my wife and I talk about it a lot, and sometimes she'll say, you still seem kind of wound tight, like you're kind of, and I have to
unwind,
leave a little bit and be like, maybe I'm a little edgy still. I need to calm it down and just realize, and I enjoy it. And I really do. But I think as I'm getting older, I'm also learning to appreciate it more.
What's the longest you guys have been away from your cell phone when you're on vacation?
Well, that's hard for an old guy like me to think about, because I did vacations before cell phones were there.
Well, since you've had one.
But since I've had one, I don't think I've ever really completely been 100% away from it.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, it's there, and now I have that. I don't have to take a camera with me, right?
Sure.
So it's still with me.
Right, right.
But I think on this trip, I mean, there was a few here and there, but the phone was in the bag, to the beach. Good. I don't have to worry. It's not in my pocket.
That to me is one of the biggest distractions. Is
100%.
And that's part of disconnecting, right? I think that we are so connected in this world today that you just have to let the phone go. You have to say, I'm not going to use it. And one thing we talked about when we went to Israel, you can take a lot of pictures. You can really get into the picture taking stuff.
Sure.
What we said is we want to be a pilgrim, not a tourist.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 things. There's actually a study. I read a study about 2 years ago that says when you concentrate on taking pictures, you actually take yourself away from the moment.
Yep.
And I've tried not to practice that. So when I'm with my grandkids, I take less pictures. I just want to experience the moment and make memories.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that to be super helpful.
And I think on this trip, I didn't take a ton.
Yeah.
Really what it is my wife and I in the sunset. Like there's a few, like it's more of just,
I only saw a chicken and an iguana.
You did see those. You did see those because it was at the pool where we were at together, which was hilarious. When the iguana came out, I was at the pool. I didn't really understand what was happening. But
one of the best vacations I took when I asked that cell phone question, I actually left my cell phone at home.
That's a great idea.
I didn't take it with me. And we drove in my Jeep down to Arkansas, down to Jasper, Arkansas, and stayed in a cabin down there. And our intent was to go do some Jeeping in some of the parks that are around there, but I found out my Jeep wasn't lifted enough and all that kind of good stuff. So we just ended up seeing a bunch of more waterfalls and probably saw 6 or 7 that while we were down there. But I was away from my cell phone for, I think it was probably 7-9 days, something like that.
Yep.
And man, that was one of the best vacations I think I can remember.
And I think that going back to what I started to say, I think that's the hardest part. But I realized the benefit of it is really being able to disconnect.
Yep.
To do it. And I think that I also learned, which was kind of funny, there was, and if those people are listening to the podcast, I'm not going to apologize. There were some text messages that I completely ignored because I wanted to get the point across.
Yeah. That you're
okay, I'm not there.
Stop messing with
and it's okay.
Yeah.
Everything will be fine. I'll be back.
Well, and we need that.
And if there's
we
importance,
need that time away.
If there's importance, there's importance. If one of my kids or something was going on, I mean, I get it. But so many times, and not just about vacation, but any time, I realized that for years, decades, people didn't have instant access. You know what? They did okay.
Yeah,
they did just fine. They did all right. And I realize now, like we kind of lump ourselves into that thing, but I'm like, we don't always need that. We don't always need that.
My wife took her cell phone on that vacation.
Yeah.
But I ended up not taking mine. Guys. So, I mean, I don't know.
It's vacation time. I mean, and now we're back at work and
we are.
Things are rolling, we're getting through to the end of the school year. We're getting close.
I know that Luke has to work in the summer, but Chuck and I get the summer off because we're in education.
I know.
We get a little bit of summertime.
And
I think that no matter what, though, even before I was an administrator, I felt like I still worked in the summer as a teacher. I mean, there's things that you have to do and there's things that you need to take care of. And
I don't think
sometimes it's training, sometimes it's educating, sometimes it's conferences. I mean, you're planning for the next year. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I think that some people just think, they
get 3 months off in the summer.
Yeah, they really, that
not
doesn't
anymore.
really happen. I mean, it might have happened back in the day where things were going on, but anymore, there's a lot of things that are still expected of you when you're off, whatever you want to say. But I'm a 12-month employee now, so I still get some time, and I'll take a little bit. We have Dead Week in there, which is the first week of August, right in there. So we'll be somewhere doing something one way or the other. I think we're going to do the circle tour around Lake Michigan. We're going to go up across the Mackinac Bridge and do the Upper Peninsula.
Come down through
Wisconsin. Yeah, we'll go the Chicago route around up north and then come down through Green Bay. We'll go to Door County in there, which is the other side of Lake Michigan over there. So I can pick up some spotted cow on the way home, which is always important.
Pick up a case for me.
I will.
There you go.
Come back through and wind up back here. So that's the plan right now. But again, plans are overrated, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
So I know the podcast is doing pretty well. We've got a lot of downloads, and we've increased our downloads. We always want you to listen. Any shout outs for anybody?
Yeah, John, we got people listening to us from Lenexa, Kansas, Bedford, Indiana, Rochester, Michigan, Orlando, Florida, Tip City, Ohio. There's quite a few people out there, so always want to say thank you.
Wait, what was the name of that town in Ohio?
Tip City.
We could almost, what the Tip City?
Yeah, there you go.
It's pretty close.
It's just north of Dayton.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Quote of the day, J.R. Tolkien, right? We know him.
Lord of the Rings.
That's a great journey and vacation.
Not all those who wander are lost.
Absolutely.
Hey.
I like that.
How about it?
I like that.
I think that's when when we talked about the vacation thing when it first started, that's one of the things I love, finding something off the path, off the beaten path. You're going to go visit some of the things that maybe are the little bit of the tourist stuff that you want to see, but I really enjoy, and again, John, like you said, doing it with somebody who you're really close to, who you love spending time with, finding those things that they don't write about. You know what I mean? Right. I love that idea. I think it's great.
Shared experiences.
Absolutely.
That's what it's about. So, hey, thanks for hanging out with us here at Half Century Hangout. We appreciate you listening to us where you find your favorite podcasts. And make sure you like us and go out to Facebook and X and Instagram. What else, Chuck?
And give us feedback. Give us feedback. Write it out.
That's probably one of the things we're missing the most is just feedback from some of those. We're on YouTube now as well. And so if you search out Half Century Hangout on YouTube, you'll be able to leave some comments on that as well. So.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Love to hear what you think of our podcast. So
hey, let us know what your favorite vacation spot is.
Perfect.
That's some good feedback to hear because you never know. Maybe it was one of ours at some point, or we were there and you're helping us out, and maybe there's a travel agent listening. Hey, let us know.
Yeah,
let us know where the spot is.
We'd be glad to give you a shout out.
100%.
You betcha. Well, have a great day, and thanks for listening to us here at Half Century Hangout.
Peace out.
Peace out.